Hi everyone, thank you for joining us tonight. I guess everybody's probably wondering how Jackie and I came up with all this varied work that you see before you tonight. And we've actually been friends through our sons when they were in grade 6, which is 6 or 7 years ago now. And Jackie was going through Cato and the photography program when we first met. And we kind of clicked as far as our kids were into music and starting a band together, but we also had kind of this visual synergy that we enjoyed each other's work, and we were inspired by a lot of the same things that we find in nature and textures and forms. So years went on, and always admiring Jackie's work, and I thought, wouldn't it be fun for us to have a show? So I suggested that we have a show at Gallery Vertigo last summer, and she reluctantly agreed, which I'm very glad that she did. And our theme is that we picked a few subject matters, and then we kind of went off on our own and decided to do what we do with those subject matters. So Jackie was doing the photography, and I was doing more of the sculptural work. And at first I thought, oh, this will be easy. I'll be able to knock off all kinds of pieces, and we'll do all this walking together, and we'll take photos together. And then we never really got a chance to do a lot of that. But we were always in contact, talking about what we were working on and what we were inspired by. So we each kind of proposed subject matter to each other. My biggest subject matter proposal to Jackie was the shell that's over on the plinth there, that small seashell, and this really cool piece of bark that's sitting on the plinth over here. And then Jackie had proposed her dandelion seed photos and her grape photos, because those were kind of her favorites. So we were working from grapes and flowers and bark and seashells. And it's, I'm a retired art school teacher, high school art teacher. And one of my favorite things to tell students all the time was to work out of your comfort zone and try and push, beyond what you're used to working with. And they always grumble and they don't like being pushed out of that comfort zone sometimes. And I always try to practice what I have preached. And I get why they grumble, because I ended up coming up against a bit of a wall sometimes when I was working with some of Jackie's subject matter. And I'm not sure why that was, but I think at one point I was being too literal about the subject matter. And then I thought, okay, I just need to kind of relax and do my thing with the subject matter and not be so literal about it. So one of my favorite pieces that came out of one of our walks that we did manage to do, and Beechwood along OK Center Road was one of our favorite subjects as well. I grabbed a piece of driftwood off of the beach, and I created this sort of grapey alien cluster over here beside one of Jackie's beautiful photos there. And it's one of my favorite pieces in the show. And I guess my point is sometimes when we're pushed into a little bit of a wall or into a creative wall, and you're not necessarily streaming 100% from your own inspiration, but you're trying to work within the parameters of somebody else, sometimes that helps us create our best works. And I feel like Jackie had a little bit of that experience as well with some of my subject matter. And so the things that I picked as subject matter seemed to really flow easily from me. And she ran up a little bit against some of the walls that I experienced. So I think it's interesting that we both had the same experience, even though we were working independently from each other, just a couple of kilometers apart from each other, because we're practically neighbors. As far as process goes, I guess you're looking at a lot of ceramics and encaustic, which is wax-based paint, and sometimes the two materials combine together. Encaustic is a really old medium, it's over 2,000 years old, that's making quite a renaissance these days. It's making quite a comeback. And I've started applying it to ceramic surfaces and using it in sculptural work. So that's what you're seeing is kind of a mix of those things together. When we installed the show, that was a bit of an experience. We started unpacking everything, and I thought, we've done art walk, I've done exhibitions, and sometimes things come together quite naturally, but when I unpacked everything and then Jacquie was bringing in her pieces, I thought, ooh, how are we gonna hang this? This is gonna be a bit of a challenge. And then we just started, it was very symbiotic. It was really good. We just kind of started clumping things together, and we just each did our thing, and everything just kind of placed really nicely. So we have our sort of flowers, and then our little nature walk here through the forest, and then we have wee over there in the corner with all the bubbles and the color, and then we walk back around here and we have some flowers, and we're into the grate. So it's just kind of a little bit of a nature walk through the forest and by the ocean, for the most part, through our show. So I hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions about encaustic and its sort of elusive qualities, you're welcome to ask me. Thank you.
Hi everyone, thank you. Like Ange said, thank you so much for coming. My name's Jacquie, I'm the photographer. Ange pretty well explained everything as far as how we, no, it's awesome. It's awesome, thank you. Yeah, so this is my first sort of gallery show. Ange has dragged me along with this process and taught me how, teacher, right? So she's taught me the ropes a little bit on all of this, and I'm very grateful to be here. As far as like my process goes, a lot of my photographs tend to be local, smaller subject, right? I don't have the opportunity to get these big grand vistas that most people see in landscape photographers and things like that. I like to find the little small things that are more accessible. Lots of flowers, lots of things, and I tend to use multiple exposures in most of them, and so that's how you sort of get the different textures and things like that, and I use depth of field to really sort of draw the attention to what I want you to see and the different aspects, and sort of create a little bit more abstract-y out of flowers and everyday objects and things. Yeah. So if you have any questions, I'm Jacquie. Thank you.
I'm a retired scientist, and that sounds strange when you're talking about art, but it's not really. Anyway, I've always been interested in both subjects, and retirement gave me the chance to switch from my career of science into a career of making art. I'm also a backpacker and a hiker, so I started out by sketching things as I hiked, and then I got into making work with a small set of pastels because it was an easy thing to carry along on the trip. And then I got bigger and bigger, and I bought more and more pastels. And I started going to these workshops up in a place called Wells, just outside Barkerville. Great experience they were. And it carried on from essentially painting of landscapes and things like that, to the fallen down buildings you find in a place like Wells, the different mining sites and things like that. And then I got kind of hung up at a point, and one of my instructors was a very critical guy, and he criticized my art union and said, you gotta try harder. And that's sort of a message I think we've already heard tonight at one point. And my idea of trying harder, I thought about it, and I said, there are things that I can paint, but I can't really paint fully, and maybe I need to start working in series, creating a number of small paintings around a single subject. And that's what I started doing. And it started out with things like the vistas you have on the Banff Jasper Highway with all the mountains and so on. You can never get that experience until you paint all of them and put them together. Well, that happened with mining sites, it happened with fallen down houses and that sort of thing. And then finally, about 3 years ago, I decided, I was never very interested in Barkerville, and I don't know why. I thought it was too put together and the rest of the thing. But the old church kind of intrigued me, and I decided to do a series on that church, and that's what's led to this particular show. The idea is the paintings together represent all individual views you might have as someone wandering through the place. And my scientific background tells me I'm a detective trying to unravel a mystery. And these paintings do something of that. The place begins to reveal itself as you look at all the different clues that it leaves behind. That's the idea behind these paintings. The 3 years you may see, you'll see paintings from the outside. The very first painting I did was this, the steeple, because I didn't know quite where to start, but I thought that might be a start. Then the back of the church as you approach it. And then I started to go inside, and you have all the different things you may see here. Anyway, the whole idea is the paintings together form something that's greater than each of them individually. They create a special environment that you can wander around and experience the place for yourself. And if you can do that, I'll be happy. Thank you.